Welcome inside our Bally Sports Ohio studio for the latest and greatest edition of Access Reds. That's Sam LeCure. I'm Brian Giesenslaw. Good show coming up, and some former players involved in this show this time around. And when I think back to former players and all the guys that have passed through the Reds clubhouse in the time that I've been in town, some stand out, some don't so much. Sure. But from the moment I saw Daniel Ray Herrera, I was drawn to him for two reasons. One, he played at Permian High School, legendary high school in Odessa, Texas. And two, the fact that he was 5'6", and succeeded and didn't let that get in the way of his big league dream.
Yeah, which is really cool. D-Ray and I, met when he was still with the Rangers in the Arizona Fall League, and then he got traded over the next year, and we became real good buds, lived in Austin together for a while, and he's an easy guy to be drawn to. Looks a little different these days, as you guys are going to get to look. We caught up a little bit. He's doing some artistry stuff now with the drawing. He's up in Brooklyn, so thought we'd bring him on and have a chance to talk with him about that and see what he's doing there, and talked a little bit of baseball, and we talked about a memorable debut that he had, so let's check it out.
Yeah, that debut was definitely kind of the staple for me. Coming into a game, a really tight game, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
And probably, a position maybe I shouldn't have been called in for. It was an interesting spot to be in, especially coming at the top of that 08 Phillies order. But, threw my hat down and it was business as usual. But that was a great memory, and making the team out of spring training in 2009, meeting with Dusty, him telling me I made the team was pretty incredible.
Was he any kind of an influence on you as to kind of pursue different passions? Because, Dusty was always into something else. And so what do you remember about Dusty a little bit?
I understand Dusty a lot more in hindsight.
Me too.
Playing under him, just looking at his leadership and direction and really just what's in the next game or what's in the next series, or, he'd call me in there and we'd talk just about how to approach hitters and things like that. But in hindsight, I do realize that he was trying to mentor a kind of a bigger part of the game and, things that are outside of the game that he wanted to bring attention to. Him and I, outside of baseball, would talk about music, and he was kind of thrown listen to jazz and blues, and we'd kind of go back and forth just every now and again about, oh, have you heard this album?
Right.
And you definitely haven't heard this album. You gotta listen to it. So, it's little things like that that I think makes him really a wonderful manager and being really personable to the players he has.
What led you, into art school? Because, all the times we were playing together, I knew you were into tattoos. You've got a ton of them. You and I, bonded a little bit over some tattoos and whatnot, and you were always maybe sketching, but nothing that stuck out to me as this is what D-Ray is going to do kind of in the next part of his life. So how'd you get into that?
When I started sketching and drawing, it was very much in that mode, just because I was getting tattoos at the time, and the ink drawings were as close to my thoughts of getting tattooed and putting out work that same way.
Tell me about once you got into school, once kind of that ink tattoo world took you there, then what spawned from there?
Well, I first didn't even think I would get into art school. I mean, Pratt Institute is one of the better art schools in the country. And so my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she told me to just put in an application, just see what happens. And, lo and behold, I get in with basically just tattoo flash sheets. But once I got in there, everything was changed. And, taking classes, introductory art school classes, drawing one, painting one, all those things were foundation courses and really foundational to the things that I still, needed to learn to make art today. So it was really a huge explosion of, inspiration and artists and the history of art. And, it was very, very difficult, to think about anything else at the time but art. In school, you're kind of teaching you everything. They're teaching you still life paintings, putting fruit on a table,
I've seen that one.
with a cloth behind it and painting it for weeks and weeks, and learning different mediums, charcoal and graphite, and oil painting. Once I picked up oil painting, I thought I was going to be like this big surrealist painter. It's just like these new revelations happen to you, and you're just like, I can't think about anything else but painting. It took maybe a year after school to even decide, kind of with this caricature slash portrait style that I'm creating now. So I've really started to kind of narrow in on illustration and caricature and portrait, and really like wrap those up into kind of the package work that I do now. And really, baseball was a beautiful way to tie all that stuff together.
Now you're getting some notoriety for your work, so it feels like you're finding your niche. What kind of come next for you?
I do think there is a niche where I come in as a former player and current artist, and where those crossroads do meet is very unique to the art world. And there's some great artists out there that were athletes as well. Micah Johnson has done tremendous work since he's done with baseball, but there is a niche that I've found, and I think I'm gonna go straight forward into that and see where it goes.
All right, so you saw the portrait of Dusty Baker, some others you probably recognize, some different pieces. If you'd like to know more or get in touch, here's how.
Yeah, check him out. I bought a couple. He's got some stuff that he'll put on sweaters and t-shirts and stuff like that. You saw a little bit of the type of drawings that he does. It's eclectic, just like Danny Ray. So it's pretty cool to go check it out and see what he's doing, and being able to blend his two passions is a really neat thing.
I still go back to that shot of him and Ryan Howard.
Yeah.
And some of those big key moments that Dusty put him in. There were some. It was a short career, but there were some big moments in that time.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was cool, and maybe Dusty's way of like, hey, I don't care how big you are. You got a heart, this big, and you're going to go out there and get it done. He wasn't scared of the moment. So for him to be able to do that kind of his first time out, I think set the tone for him, because, look, it wasn't going to be probably a 10-year career. It was just a gimmick type of pitch and whatever it was, but he made the major leagues for a couple of years, and that's a pretty cool thing.
Lefty specialist. No three-batter minimum.
A screwball, truly.
No three-batter minimum back in the day.